Hey guys, welcome back to DevSpot. Today we're joined by Ransacked Studios, which is a developer of a mobile game called Zombie Scrapper and Glitch's Trip, as you've seen on this channel. Today they're going to talk about their process, some of the team dynamics and how they met together, and what they do when it comes to a game. So you guys should stick around, and remember, my socials are in the description, and so are theirs, so check them out. Why don't we start off with you guys just introducing yourself and tell me what you're responsible for on the project.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, Glenn.
All right. My name is Glenn Montalvo. I am the programmer for Glitch's Trip. So I code the systems, write the tools, level editor. I make stuff work in the game, I guess you would say. Other than that, I also do like a lot of the business stuff. Behind the scenes for Ransacked Studios. That's about it.
Cool. Yeah, he's our wizard. My name's Michael Coletti. I'm the designer on Glitch's Trip. I make all the levels, try to come up with the power-ups, enemy types, just trying to get all the weird stuff, come up with the themes of the worlds, hazards, all that kind of stuff. Everything you kind of interact with the game. I make Glenn make it work from whatever comes from my mind. And then for Ransacked, I do a lot of the social media, try to reach out to people. I'm also a producer by day, so we try to, at least have some type of roadmap or something going on. But, we're indie, so it's kind of loose.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So it sounded like one of you takes more of the business approach and the other guy handles PR. Is that correct? Michael, you handle PR stuff?
Yeah, I'm more of the talker. I'm more of the extrovert. So trying to get people, if we go to a show or something, or or just trying to get into, like, we did PAX last year, so it's like get people to play, get feedback, try to get people hyped up about it. Glenn's better with numbers, so that's always the best thing.
We have another team member named Steve Ford who does art, and he also does marketing artwork and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the cool, like, every time you look at some pretty picture in our game or any he takes all my ideas for enemies and we kind of just let him go with it. I'm like, this is what I want it to do, and then he kind of creates his own little version of it, of the idea, and then we kind of roll that way.
He makes things look pretty, really.
Oh, super pretty.
Man, he's done a really good job. The graphics are fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna roll right into the next question, or the first question, I guess, here. So you guys do talk about this on your website, and for those interested, you could check the website below. It's linked in the description. What got you guys into game development?
Cool. Okay, I guess I'll start. For me, I don't know, it's like everyone else, right? Love of video games, right? Kind of fascinated them from a gamer's point of view for like entertainment value. I never thought I could actually make games, so I kind of went through college, and then I went and got like a corporate marketing job and was miserable. So I ended up going back to school for games, because after trying to get a few jobs, realizing I didn't know kind of shit about games, I went back. That's where I ended up meeting Glenn. We had a project together at Full Sail University. We had to come up with a game in 6 months. So, from there we just kind of like clicked. So, it was kind of always the idea of, what side project you working on? Wouldn't it be cool if we did something like this? And then, once we kind of established ourselves in our own careers, we were like, we should start doing some of that stuff on the side and kind of getting better at our own skills, as well as like, hey, maybe we can go somewhere with this.
Yeah, for me, ever since I was a kid, I love games, obviously. It's, cliche, but before even college, I was trying to make 2D games using the Allegro graphics library. I was trying very hard, not knowing a lot, not knowing much of anything, and like just fumbling around, and it wasn't until my friend who was like, let's go to Full Sail and learn how to do it, actually make games, until I actually, started to learn real skills that could actually, help me with the game development process and stuff. Funny thing is he actually left the school, but I continued on where I met Coletti, and we've been working on stuff now. After, like Coletti said, after we kind of got into the game development space, once we got our lives together, we started working on side projects. Like our first game is Zombie Scrapper. It's like an iOS Android game. Yeah, it's another hard game, but we made that just to get something done. Just so we could be like, oh yeah, we can totally do this. And so the Glitches Trip is our second game, and this is more like, let's make something bigger and more marketable that people might like. Also looks pretty.
Yep. And then Glenn met Steve at another company, and then just kind of game development, right? You keep jumping to company based on the project or better opportunities, and then we kind of just all stayed in touch, and we're like, we need art. Steve, hook us up. Yeah.
I met Steve at a company called Imagine Engine. We were part of Foundation 9 Entertainment. And we mainly did a lot of like 3DS games. And they were kind of my first games that I created that were, I would say, professional. First game was Puss in Boots DS. It was great. But we did a bunch of kids games there, but that's where I met Steve. And we've been in contact ever since, and bug him to make art for me.
Well, that's pretty cool. How long have you guys been like friends working on projects, or how long ago did you guys go to Full Sail?
Cool. So what was it, 2009? Well, for me it was 2009 to 2010. I did a master's degree then. Glenn, you were there a year earlier?
Yeah, I was there a year earlier. So we met in 2009, right?
Yep.
We met in 2010.
Oh, I guess technically you're right.
Yeah, we met in 2010, so.
Yep. So 2010, and then we graduated. Glenn got a job, was kicking butt. I struggled a little bit trying to find a job, and then I finally got a job. And then we kind of started Zombie Scrapper, it was 2 years ago? Almost 3 years now?
Yeah, I think it's 3 years now.
Yeah. So let's say a little before 2015, we were, working on Zombie Scrapper and trying to get that out. And then once that, got successful, it was, we have what was it, 300,000 downloads or something like that. But then we started realizing like, hey, we should probably do some more of these things.
Yeah, we're close to 300,000 downloads. We're not making bank off of it or anything like that. But
it was for the numbers, man. It was for the likes.
Yeah, I think Steve's artwork draws a lot of people in, which is nice. But we thought it was successful because really the main goal we had with that game was to make something that we thought was good and get it out in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 300,000 downloads or whatever. That's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, we felt pretty happy about it. It's been that's over what, the 3 years?
2 years? Yeah. I don't know, I can't remember. It's like a blur now.
Yeah.
Well, to put it in perspective, I don't think I've ever seen even a game on the featured page of Game Jolt for so long break 100,000. So.
Well, this is a free mobile game, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put it into perspective for you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, there's in Zombie Scrapper, what we did, 36 campaign levels and what was it, 25
survival.
Yeah. And then 25 survival levels. So there's a lot of content there.
I think it's just 12.
Oh. All I really remember of that project was not having a level editor, so it was painful to place a bunch of assets in a scene in Unity. And so we were like, next game we're having a level editor.
It was, so we made a tool that was very rudimentary. that like was just a placer, you place objects, but it wasn't great. So this game we went kind of a little more hog wild with the level editor. It's part of the game now. Like you know, you see in the main menu, you can create your own levels and play them and stuff. We're gonna hook that up to like the Steamworks so that you can like like if you know Steam copy, you can share in Steamworks and stuff like that. Yeah.
So make some levels, man.
Yeah, I love games that release their like full powered level editor, not just some light version of it.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing he uses to create all the levels that punish you.
That's a good word for it. Alright, so I do want to roll into the next question here. So, you guys have made two pretty creative games, and they're pretty different from each other in style, at least on your website, the two games you have listed here. Where do you guys get inspiration for this kind of stuff?
Cool. Honestly, I would have to say everywhere. Like, of course, we play a bunch of other video games, but it's like, it's everything, right? It's like books we read, you know, some cool idea, movies, anything from like experiences when we go to like a concert. Like a lot of the music you get from Glitch's Trip is like, I went to a lot of festivals while we were prototyping this game. So, you know, there's like a lot of trippy music I wanted. Also it comes down to like, you know, we play a lot of games, we message each other being like, oh, you have to play this as a cool mechanic. Or, hey, check out this moment to moment in, you know, gameplay in this game. And a lot of, you know, I guess sometimes it's great getting inspiration everywhere, but as a designer, sometimes I have to like black box myself because if not, we're just feature creeping like crazy. Because it'd be like, this game has this amazing thing, we should add it. So every once in a while, if I'm really focused on like a certain mechanic or theme, I try to like not play some games until I kind of get through a bunch of levels, and then, you know, then sometimes it's great to take a break from making levels and play other games and then get kind of inspired again to like do something new. So it's kind of like a lot of everything. And then sometimes it's knowing when to cut yourself off, at least creatively for me.
So I have some I guess, some more concrete answer. But yeah, like I agree with Claddy wholeheartedly that, you know, we get a lot of inspiration from a lot of things. So I'd say, I'll talk about Zombie Scrapper real quick. I actually made like a student project that was called Zombies Ate Your Mother, and it was essentially like a very simple top-down shooter where you just endless waves of zombies came at you, and it was a playoff of Zombie Ate Your Neighbors. But essentially, you know, there was a boss, it was your mom and stuff like that. It was a simple game that took me a month to make, and that was in 2010 for school. And so I kind of was like, why don't I just do that for mobile? And that's kind of how Zombie Scrapper came to be, even though, you know, we changed a lot of the idea there. For Glitch's Trip, we were both Geometry Wars players.
Oh, yeah, we can tell about that story too.
I thought I detected some of that.
Yeah. And we used to have competitions of like who could have the higher score in Geometry Wars and stuff. And then like the idea was like, why don't we try to make a game like Geometry Wars, but a platformer kind of thing. And that's kind of the inspiration for the little grid in the background.
Yeah, we so a lot of times when we're doing prototyping stuff, like we'll get together or we'll just sit down and have conversations like this, and we start kind of mashing things together. And then that's would it be cool if? And I kept getting like, we should make like a really trippy a really trippy platformer. And then Glenn's like, yeah, we should make it hard too, like a Super Meat Boy, die a lot, try to figure it out, and then. That's when I started prototyping that, and then once we got Steve to jump on board, we're like, oh, yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah, we obviously took it our own way, but that's kind of like, I would say, the seeds of things, and we evolve them as we make stuff.
Yeah, that was like the first thing I picked up on when I loaded up your game and saw that trail going behind. I'm like, these guys have played Geometry Wars before. I can tell.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, we put a lot of hours into. So I kind of was like, when I first met Glenn, when we were first getting to know each other and like starting our new project, you basically like, hey, let's play a bunch of games and then figure out what we're going to do for our, game pitch for class. And then I was like, oh, I'm nasty at this game, and he's like, yeah, I'm better. So I tried to make him break my top score in pacifism, and then he did in like a day. So then for the next 6 months, we ended up going back and forth, switching, just scores until we graduated.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm gonna get away from maybe some of the more exciting topics here, and I kind of want to talk about the team dynamics you guys have going on there, because there's a lot of people that work in small teams or looking to start a game development company with their friends. So as a group of, you guys have 3 people, I think you said. How do you guys stay organized when you're working on a big project like this?
Cool. Well, luckily, each of us do, build games during the day for other companies. So, I guess we just have, we understand like what works and what doesn't in like a team dynamic. One of the biggest things is that there's only 3 of us, right? So it's very easy to figure out. We all talk about it. We all give each other, constructive criticism on ideas or direction to go. So it's very easy to like settle disputes. We use like Trello, Slack. We have like weekly or monthly calls, depending on like what we're working on. So we're always in communication. So there's always like, hey, check this out, get back to me. Trello we use because we have good ideas, and then or there's like, oh, there's a bug. So we just track that stuff. So like when you sit down at the computer late at night, you're like, what should I be doing? I think Slack is huge. I think any like small group of people, if they're trying to make games, definitely have Slack as, it's free. There's a free version. You can communicate. Everyone's online all the time. Another big thing that we started doing is we'll have an argument. Like right now, we're currently like, we have a bunch of different ideas for the story for Glitch's Trip, but no one's really happy with and settled on like one idea. So we each come up with our own ideas. Then we have one of these brainstorm sessions where everyone talks about it. And then, we let it sit in for a few days, and then we come back and be like, all right, what was the best option? And then we kind of go with that. So being a team of 3 is, especially with all different disciplines, you kind of lean on each other for expertise. So Glenn and I might argue about something, but it's like, oh, okay, I get why we're going to do it that way, because he's thinking of a bunch of other, tech decisions that we need to make versus me being like, I want to do this for design. So I guess it's also just like having mutual respect with each other, right? So you got to make sure that you can work with people. That's like the number one thing, right? Try to make a really tiny game jam with someone. And if you can do that, try to do another run, but bigger. And then you can slowly start getting to these bigger projects.
Yeah, I guess I 100% agree with Michael. Yeah, like if you don't like who you work with, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah, definitely.
That's for sure. But like you said, we use Slack to like communicate daily. Trello to keep track of our tasks. We currently use Tortoise SVN because I think we're relics. We don't use Git.
Yeah.
But for source control. What else? Other than that, we sometimes spin up Google Docs for things. We need to talk about this. We need to design this. So we'll spin up a Google Doc, and then we invite everybody to the Google Doc.
Plus, sorry, go ahead.
And like, what doesn't really work usually is like creating a huge Google Doc and then being like, oh yeah, this is the doc for everything. That never seems to work. It always seems to be better to be like, okay, let's just do something for this small thing. And then we roll off of, we just that one topic in one doc, and then we just kind of decide like, what we're gonna do there. And that's it's pretty rare actually, but.
Yeah, we definitely, when we started this, it was like, let's build a big, game design doc. And then it's like, then we're just slowly copy and pasting things that into a smaller section to give to someone, because it's like no one wants to read 40 pages of like stuff that, and it's just like hard to update, right? So smaller bits of sound official data or like decisions is easy to pass around, and then we just kind of keep it in a folder. And you gotta stay organized, right? So that's it.
A lot of times you can work stuff out in Slack and it's no big deal. Just communicate that way. I would say that's mostly like we're constantly on Slack talking to each other.
Yep, pretty much every day. Or just leaving messages, right? Plus, Glenn and Steve are very disciplined developers. Like, you don't find that's very rare, because like most of my day is being a producer and trying to keep people together. And then at night, I get to be a sloppy designer, and occasionally they're like, "Hey, update Trello. You're not doing this. We need this." So it's good to keep each other in check.
So, what is Trello before we move on?
It's a task tracking system. It uses like cards. So you can have a card that's like, what do we have? Achievements, right? So we have a card for achievement art. And so Steve has on the card we can create a description. We can add a checklist, like say we need like an icon for each achievement. We can just have that, and we can check them off as he checks them into the code, or checks them into our project. And then like we can do separated by art, code, design, stuff like that. It's just like a task tracking system. It's very visual though, I would say, unlike like Jira. Jira can be if you set it up right, but
yeah, I guess it's just it's an easy way to do like a Kanban methodology where it's like, hey, we have a list of a bunch of stuff we want to do. Let's put it all, in visual cards. And then everyone can see what everyone's doing, and then kind of adjust, because it's like we jump around a lot on what we need to do based on, well, honestly, sometimes it's like what we're feeling. Like if I really want to do this part, this feature, so I want to like have a lot more energy to, and I start on that. They at least know I'm working on it if they just quickly look at the Trello board, or they see me marking off stuff, or vice versa.
Agile strategies. It's good.
Yeah.
I talk about agile strategies a lot in some of the DevSpot videos, because that stuff's really good. It works well, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, totally. You just got to be disciplined. You got to understand. But we definitely, especially our indie projects, it's like a lot of things always changing. We feel comfortable scrapping things if it's not working. And again, the three of us, it's very easy to jump around and be able to, be comfortable with that. So definitely agile is the way to go for us. It gets more complicated when you're in bigger teams, but yeah, we're definitely for it.
All right, you guys kind of hit on this before. We're going to jump back into the whole team dynamic thing here. You touched on a little bit how to handle conflicts in your team. Sounds like you guys don't get many. So I guess I'll ask you, what would you say is the number one way to avoid conflicts in your team?
Okay. We definitely, there's times where we definitely get in conflicts where it's like, we both have different visions for like, when we were first starting up levels, right? Like, I wanted bigger levels, but then we found out that it's a little more frustrating. And then at times you're like, but I spent multiple hours making this cool level. It's like, yeah, but doesn't go well with our game or our vision. So a lot of times it's trying to come back to like core ideas and have like, hey, we said we were going to have levels that are 30 seconds to 2 minutes max. Like that doesn't fit in this level, especially on challenge mode. So I guess a lot of stuff we do is we all agree on certain core decisions, and like, hey, we never do this. Like we're never going to have a double jump. We're never going to have, this feature. So once we agree upon that and we get into these arguments, it's easy to go back to like one of those docs or one of those moments that we're like, oh no, you're right, we agreed on this. And then we kind of stay on track. So it's just about communication, to be honest. Like, we definitely have difference of opinion.
Yeah. I would say we don't avoid it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I would say the opposite is that if we do see something that does violate like some rule we created or some principle we decided is important, we go into it and we address it. Like, I feel like if you're ever working with like these guys who I work with, Steve, Coletti, Michael, I call Coletti, or I call Michael Coletti. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm getting confused there. It's weird to call him Michael, but yeah, what I'm saying is, like, I've been working with these guys for a while, and like we definitely have mutual respect for each other. Like he's saying, and I feel like if we didn't have mutual respect, then the conflict, would actually, it would be a bad thing. But I feel like the conflict just kind of creates better things. It generates new ideas and that kind of stuff. If you're working on teams where conflict isn't resolved, I think you're working on a bad team, personally. Like, if you can't bring up problems to your teammates and address them as a team, I think you're just working on a bad team. So what I'm saying is, like, yeah, any conflicts we have, we try to go at them head first and resolve them.
Yeah, we very rarely
met at all.
Yeah, I think we've very rarely ever let something that's like bothering us about a level, feature, anything go more than like a day or two without being like, all right, we're not doing anything else until we resolve like this. Yeah. Go from there, which is fine. Sometimes it's like, either one of us could be frustrated because, we're like, but I really want to do this. But, you just end up finding the best way to, compromise a little bit. Or, sometimes you don't see things the other way until like you're like, okay, well, cool, let's put in some extra work and try this out instead, and then compare, and then we're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So we've had those enough times where you're like, yeah, okay, cool, let's just try it this way and see what's better.
That's a pretty good strategy. Best not to let those things just hang out there and address them. I like that. That's a good way to do it. So we're getting near the half an hour mark, and I want to give you guys the opportunity to maybe talk something a little bit more fun, maybe a little bit more bragging rights worthy. So, what do you guys feel is your greatest contribution to the gaming community?
We were looking at this question and we're like, man, like as Ransacked, since we're like so new, we were like, oh man, I don't know, but. I think, just looking at our design, and just since we're like indie and we're doing this on our own, we can take chances, right? We're free to designing whatever we want. We're not in a box. Like a lot of our ideas can't work at a large studio, or maybe a publisher looks at it and goes, nah, no thanks. It's not in the marketing trend right now, or everyone's doing this mechanic. So it allows us to like be really creative and be like, we're going to experiment with new mechanics and mixed genres and see what works. That's what I think we love about it, is the idea that like you get those what was it? One of the last games that like really blew my mind indie-wise was the Crypt of the Necromancer. Like just the two mashup of the genres. I was like, oh man, we have to do something like that. So I think our greatest contribution is just hopefully what happens is, people really like this new mechanic for Glitch's Trip, and down the road, other people are starting making cool, that they play our game, they like this mechanic, they end up coming up with something even cooler for a new game, and then, we're listening to a conversation at some point, and they're like, oh, I used to play this game, Glitch's Trip, and I got inspiration from there, and I think that's something that we really want to push forward with Ransacked, is just being able to be a place where people can get like a cheap game, good quality, lots of content, and then like a uniqueness to it that hopefully inspires more creativity in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I hope we can provide, like, our games provide enough value that, you know, people like them. You know, as long as like somebody's enjoying them somewhere, I'm pretty happy. um, I don't know if there's much more to say other than that. Like, we're definitely too new. We're not changing the world here. Like, so we're not changing the game dev industry here. So, you know, we're still so small, and there's only 3 of us, and I don't know. We're just kind of making stuff we want to make, and hope people dig it. You know.
I can understand that. I mean, don't go thinking that just because you're only 3 guys and you're new to the industry that you can't make huge changes. I want to caution you away from that mindset.
Yeah, of course, sure. Like, we totally agree. Like, there's, it's really nice to see people like stream this game, especially that we're developing it. And when we went to PAX, or we went to this little indie show called Boston Fig. That's because we're in Massachusetts. And it's nice to see people being like, oh, wow, I've never seen that before. So, I mean, that keeps us going. So hopefully future games do the same thing. And then we have, you know, we're still working on like what is Ransacked, right? So we want to put some stuff out there, get the feedback and opinions of players and like what they want to see from us going forward. And then, you know, like I think over time we kind of, you know, we'll meet that need and see where it goes.
That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna surprise you with an extra question here. You guys have been making games for school or maybe some side projects, but is there a game that you've worked on or developed that you'd rather not see the light of day?
Go ahead. Glenn, you can go first.
There are ones that I can't talk about.
Yeah, no, that's what I was
Yeah, if you don't want to reveal the name of the game, that's totally fine. If you just kind of want to talk about what made you hate it so much.
Well, so like, I did work on some. A separate thing is there's a couple like kids games that I don't think they're kids games, but like, you know, when I first began my career, I mainly 3DS games. I worked on. You know, it was like a team of a couple people at a company called Imagine, Puss in Boots DS. I worked on Monster High DS, Gremlins Gizmo DS. What else did I work on? So Wreck-It Ralph 3DS DS. Like, I'd say a couple of them are kind of like, you know, you know, that's how you start your career, I guess, but there's, you know, there's other games that were like, they were just more taxing, I would say, mentally, and I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I'd say they were more taxing mentally. Just took a lot out of me, and I feel like they didn't like professionally they didn't like come to anything great or anything like that, or
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm coming from, where you know, you work on a project for a really long time, you put a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears in it, you know, you got a ton of people working on it, and then you know, you look back and you're like, we should have figured out the core game loop way earlier than we did, or, you know, like, you start big projects, you end up losing sight because there's so much work to do that you end up kind of forgetting where the fun is, and then you're trying to like, you got like ship dates and you're trying to like catch up, so you're trying to put all this effort in, and then so sometimes it just comes back to being like, don't be afraid to like throw away an idea that after a few weeks or months of like trying to make it work doesn't work, you know. It's like, I know like games are business, so it's hard to say that, but that's why we do these side projects, right? We're just like, nope. Like, there was plenty of other things that we were thinking for Glitch's Trip, and we played with them and we're like, oh no, that's bad. You know, like, junk it, lose like 2-3 months worth of like kind of work on the weekends or nights and stuff, and then, but you know,
I'm sorry.
I would say that we just do that because of our experience in you know, our day jobs.
Yeah, like, so like when you're working for a bigger company, sometimes it becomes more like you're just like a robot essentially, and you're just getting stuff done, checking stuff off, you know, like, oh yeah, I got this done, and like gets into the game, and then, you know, it may not be great. Like, you know, it may not complement other systems in the game. You know, it was just, in theory, it was a good idea. And then like sometimes they just, depending on the company, they may not go and refactor and be like, oh yeah, this is not that great, so we should change it or something like that. And like, especially if you're pressed on the time, like a for time, and just trying to get as many features as you can in a game, it can get that way. And then you're like putting all this work into it, and then at the end of the day, you're like, that game wasn't even great, or wasn't even that great. And so you're like, why did I waste all my hours trying to, you know, get this extra feature in when I could have been doing something more fun or something better?
Yeah, it can be a little soul crushing at times, but you know, this is why we do side projects, because we get to explore you know, some crazy ideas that we couldn't, you know, or you know, we could try to pitch it to bigger companies, but at times they're just like, yeah, no, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna learn it myself, because that just makes us better developers in general. So I think we're gonna continue doing that, and then hopefully that kind of pays off in the long run.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's nice to hear that you guys find a way to get around the, as you put it, soul-crushing defeats, or games that really take a lot out of you. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, like, well, yeah. This is one of those things that you have to make a bad game or two to learn from it. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm a rock star, I never make a bad game, because no one's being honest with you, or you're not getting enough feedback. So you don't make better games without having a couple crappy ones in your in your inventory, you know.
Yeah, I'd say that's the only good thing about, like, you know, working in the industries for as long as we have. Like, when we see a game fail or succeed, we can learn from those mistakes, or what made them successful, and hopefully apply them to our stuff, or attempt to apply them to our stuff based on, you know, what the learnings might be.
All right, well, that's all the questions I sent you for today. Did you guys want to add anything, or give some advice to newer developers, or add anything to the end here?
Cool. I guess advice-wise for me is, you know, you get that a lot, right? So randomly people ask you like, hey, what do you do for a living? You know, you're at the dentist or something, and they're like, hey, I make video games for a living, you know? And they're like, I always get the question like, oh, my kid really likes video games. He might want to do that. How does he get into it? I think the hard lesson I had to learn at first was make stuff. Like, whatever, it's a board game, a card game, pencil and paper, you know, there's so many free little engines out there to like dabble with. Just go make stuff. Like, keep making stuff, learn from it, make more. That's the best way you're gonna find your way into the industry, unless you know something. So get a good like understanding of each discipline. You know, you don't need to be a master of all of them, right? Just like be able to talk with a engineer versus the artist versus, you know, sound guy, you know, producers, project managers. Like, get an understanding of everything. But like, if you want to be an engineer or designer, like, you need to make stuff. Like, period. If you're not making stuff, you're no good.
Yeah, what I'd say is, well, I'd say just kind of do it. Like, you know, we have a job. I have twin girls. Like, my philosophy is get one thing done a day, and usually like that one thing becomes two things, becomes three things. Because as soon as I'm in the groove, it becomes easier to get stuff done. It's not always the case, but you know, it's part of my daily routine. Is at night I try to get at least one thing done. It could be one thing business related, it could be one thing code related, you know, it doesn't matter really. Usually if I start being productive, I can stay productive for a span of time. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest advice I would say is like, just do something. Like, just try to get one thing done, see what happens. Like, don't be afraid. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, just go into full force. And, I don't know, maybe something good will come out of it. One thing else I'd like to say is like a shout out to the audio and the sound effects for our game.
Oh, say that again because it got cut out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One other thing I'd like to say is, hate that. One other thing I would like to say is a shout out to. Sorry. Delete all that. Delete it.
I don't know. It's getting pretty funny now.
I would like to. I would like to shout out to Blue Whale Audio for doing our music and our sound effects. I think they did a really good job for a game. We're still working with them to finish some more things in our game, but they do the music and the sound effects, and I want to make sure that they're mentioned.
We actually met them at Boston Fig, so we applied to be in Boston Fig. So we got in. This was like when we just got our like prototype done, and we had like 6 levels. So they were students, and we were on MIT campus. So people come up, play your game, and then they're kind of like, "Hey, we had no audio, right? Because we just didn't have anything. We had like some standard sound effects in, so we just kind of muted everything because it was loud in there anyways. But we met them there, and then we made them. They asked if they could do some, a demo. So we gave them a quick, I guess video of our game, and then they kind of dubbed over a bunch of sound effects, and we were like, oh yeah, let's do this. So it's actually been very entertaining and very easy to work with them. So you'll be hearing a lot more of their stuff in the next 2 worlds coming out.
I look forward to it. I love when there's good music on top of awesome graphics and a cool gameplay. Just really brings the whole thing together.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, anything else you guys would like to add?
I mean, I'm good. I just, we would love more people to, not only play the game, but, give us feedback. I think the big thing that, since we're so small, we really want, real feedback from people, whether it's good, bad, definitely, hopefully more constructive than like hate speech or anything. But, I just want to know more about what people are feeling about the game and kind of what features they want going forward, because we're in development. We can't do everything that people ask for based on like just how we already have things built, but we can definitely we're looking to just be able to work with the community and build a community, so hopefully the people that like this game get everything they want out of it, and then it makes a better game overall, because it's just one of those things that gamers got good ideas, so I want to hear from them.
Yeah, we made it so that you can just hit an F1. So while you're playing, if you see something, it could be a bug, it could be something you don't like, an idea even, like you just hit F1, you can, it opens a little panel that you can just type in feedback to us and we'll get it on our Trello board.
Wow, that's actually a pretty cool mechanic. I didn't realize you could do that. That was a good idea.
Yeah, so send us stuff. Don't feel bad. If you're frustrated, especially like a certain level, send us take a screenshot. Send it into us. We'll be happy to chit chat about it. And then what we try to do is every time we do an update, besides what a main feature that we put into the builds, we're trying to fix the bugs that come in, or tweak a feature, tweak a level to make sure it's there's no too crazy difficulty spikes between certain levels. So yeah, every time we're actually reading all that stuff, all of it, every comment, everything that comes in, all 3 of us are reading it.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to take a second and thank you guys for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Thank you for having us. We'll keep watching your. I had a blast, honestly, watching you play the game. So if you continue to play it, we'll definitely be watching. And we'll probably watching all your other stuff, man. You're a funny guy.
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see those extra levels or the next 50 levels if I even get to it. I'm like 4 recordings into it, so like 2 hours into the game. I'm not confident I'm gonna get past level 50.
We'll see. Honestly, you get better over time.
Yeah. Are you playing with a mouse or keyboard or controller? Or?
I'm using a controller. I know I'm betraying the PC master race, but I like using a controller.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, it's actually funny. It's we both I do keyboard and mouse because when I'm making the levels, it's easy to jump into the level, play it, come back. So I'm very comfortable with keyboard and mouse. While Glenn is all about the controller. So which is great because we both get the difference of opinion when people talk to us about it.
Yeah, like it's gonna be on Xbox One and Switch too, so like it has to work well with the controller.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you guys. I'm never good at closing these things. I always like ramble on and on and on and on. So we're just gonna say have a great life. Okay.
All right.
That's
You too,
just,
man.
Me too.
We'll talk more. This isn't goodbye. This is just have a great life.
Drop mic.
That's pretty much it.
All right, man. I'll catch you later then.
Bye. See you.